Good morning. On today's show, the Canadian dollar and oil. How Mr. No New Wars is setting us up for a new war. How the economic fortunes of the United States have greatly diverged from the economic fortunes of Canada. But let me start with a question. Why are you here? No, really, I've been doing these TikToks for 3 years now. And I have had more than my fair share of naysayers telling me how wrong I am. And it's funny, the naysayers tend to disappear. You remember the naysayers that said home prices would drop to 2019 levels? How's that working out? You remember the naysayers that said we'd go to 10% interest rates and everything would collapse? How's that working out? So maybe, just maybe, the dude who likes to do research and dig into topics, maybe he knows what he's talking about. Just say it. Let's start here. Wow, I haven't seen many of these photos this morning. I mean, it's funny, like when this drops, there is a stampede of people to show this picture. But this morning? Hello? Hello? Did you know that was happening? Did you just miss it? Is it a coinky dink? What's happening? Faith is being lost in the American dollar. That's what's happening. Because the value of the American dollar is dropping, the value of the Canadian dollar is going up. And of course, that bodes well for our inflation numbers this year. Also, you remember a few weeks ago when West Texas Intermediate was almost the same price as Brent crude? Yeah, it's not anymore. Now, some say that this is because of the possibility of a ceasefire in Ukraine. I'm not buying it, because it's been falling for a month. I'll get back to the Ukraine thing in a second, but first, the inflation went up in the United States. Powell says new inflation data show Fed has more work to do to kill their economy. Excellent. Of course, part of the problem is that food has gotten expensive, especially eggs, because they have an avian flu problem. What are they doing to combat the issue? Exactly what you do when you have a pandemic. You have quarantines, you sequester, you stop contact, you administer vaccines. Oh, and one extra thing we couldn't do with people. Destroy the infected. Anyway, because they're destroying infected hens, the price of eggs has gone through the roof. Eggs are now more expensive than they were at the peak of inflation, at $4.95 a dozen. Oh, there's that Canadian dollar again. That's $7.04 a dozen, or basically what they would cost at Metro. I just bought eggs at Costco. It was $8 for 30. But can you imagine what kind of chaos that is causing? $7 for a dozen eggs? And then think about how often eggs are used in the ingredients of other foods. But raising interest rates will totally fix that. All right, the premiers have gone down to Washington to negotiate with the terrorists. I thought we didn't negotiate with terrorists. What gives? Now, earlier this week, Doug Ford has said success is zero tariffs. And then he said, clearly that wasn't achieved, nor is it realistic to think it could be. And then, why did you say that would be the success? Doesn't that set you up for failure? You know me. I think we should have a 25% reduction in the energy that we send to the U.S. Natural gas, oil, and electricity. Especially the electricity. And I will remind people that a trade war is what exacerbated the situation during the Great Depression. Yeah, right after the Great Depression kicked off, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act came into play. And then counter tariffs. And then retaliatory tariffs. Oh, wait! President Trump said he plans to unveil reciprocal tariffs on Thursday. Excellent. Excellent. Why is this important? Because I said something about no new wars at the beginning. The Great Depression laid the foundation for the Second World War. Now, before someone says you're just a realtor, remember, I'm not just a realtor. I spent the bulk of my adult life designing video games like that. Now, in the latter part of my time with the Battlefield franchise, much of my work went uncredited. And yes, that is a sore spot. My point is that doing this work, even though it's just a game, does require an enormous amount of research into the history of warfare, how warfare plays out, etc., etc., etc. And the United States is setting us up for another war. They may not realize they're setting us up for another war because they're stupid, but they're setting us up for another war. See, with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, what the Americans want is for the Ukraine to just give up. What could go wrong? Well, Russia would have a stranglehold on Europe's energy, and they would use that as a springboard to essentially take over Europe. Why would they want to do that? Why does the United States want to take over Canada and Panama and Greenland? And God knows what else. Oh, right, Gaza. Oh, while we're on that point, ask a Palestinian what it feels like to be conquered. I'd like to be the 51st state. Oh, really? Yeah, you haven't thought that through. What does it all mean? We are going to see the calm before the storm. Some things will look okay. The inflation won't grow that much. Home prices won't grow that much. And then the shit's going to hit the fan. And that famous line from The Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.